All right, so I'm going to read this book, A World Within a World, X-7 reporting. Transmissions from Russia on the theory and practice of solar light radiations. Foreword by Sir George Trevelyan. And I hope I can read good enough so that it's good enough to listen to. And I have to put it near the light, so this won't be a visual thing. It'll just be a listening thing. And I hope the microphone works good on the phone and everything. But I will show some of these pages just so you can see why I'm reading it, because I've almost lost this book a bit and I haven't been able to find any copies online or anywhere. As I said in the other video, I did try to trace a copy of it. So the table of contents is the preface, and then there's a foreword by Sir George Trevelyan, and I'll read that. Then there's the editor's note. Then there's a letter from Peter Caddy at Findhorn, the late Peter Caddy. And then X-7 reporting and the chapters in that. And then there's 4 letters from Light. And then there's something called the Vedic Psychicism by Jeanine Miller. Okay, so here's the preface. Light, the quarterly journal of the College of Psychic Studies, London, first published with considerable daring in 1978, A World Within a World. Oh, that's the same year I had that flood. Okay, and it is to Light's editorial board that we say thank you for their permission to publish these remarkable scripts in book form. The scripts, when they first appeared, aroused strong responses. Some readers praised them as the most important ever to appear in that magazine. Others, a minority, dismissed them as unacceptable or even embarrassing. To arouse such strongly felt reactions points to power of some kind in the scripts. They stand or fall by whether they recount altered states of consciousness. Even if much more were known about the sensitive who received them, the scripts basically remain anonymous. Difficulties as to their source and mode of transmission undoubtedly arise. Telepathic transmission must not be expected to be a verbal one in the Russian language. Telepathy is often received as an idea not clothed in words or as a symbol or an image which somehow from within itself proclaims its meaning. What is transmitted is then interpreted within the limitations of the sensitive's concepts and phraseology. No mediumistic reception is entirely pure. An element of joint composition cannot wholly be avoided. Following the scripts, and at Light's request, we also published 4 letters from their editorial board, comprising Rosamund Lehman, Kathleen Rain, who was responsible for editing the original manuscript, Paul Beard, and Brenda Marshall. Okay, so here's the foreword by George Trevelyan. By George Trevelyan. Okay. The publication of these strange and remarkable scripts is much to be welcomed. Their fascination lies in the challenge to make flexible our thinking. In our extraordinary age, events are growing ever stranger. Our reliance on mere rational logical thinking is being undermined by happenings that call for deeper interpretation. To quote the quatrain by James Elroy Fletcher, "Awake, awake, the world is young. For all its weary years of thought, the starkest fights must still be fought, the most surprising songs be sung." We are not called in for belief in what is here offered. As we strive to explore into the imponderable worlds of spirit, truth approaches us in ways that cannot be proven. We are invited, and indeed challenged, to take ideas and put them in the thinking of our hearts without believing or disbelieving, reserving judgment and allowing them to speak as we watch life in the light of them. This is a valid approach to spiritual truth, which lifts it out of the arid level of argument. Test the spirits, indeed. For all psychic communication, we must make our own judgment of validity on the basis of its quality. It is especially valuable that the publisher has included the correspondence with the editor of Light. These scripts are obviously of outstanding interest. They suggest the kind of soul transformation that is possible in our time. Into the very blackest human situation, the redemptive power of the Christ presence can come. This is the supreme hope in our benighted time, the prelude to a new dawn. We have here the story of brave men in the uttermost human extremity, finding that they can refine the vibratory rate in themselves and surrounding matter until they can move in consciousness into the ethereal light which animates all substance, even solid rock. The escape from imprisonment is through going inwards to find soul release on a plane of heightened frequency. Coleridge wrote in his Dejection Ode, "We receive but what we give, and in our life alone does nature live. Ours is her wedding garment, ours her shroud, and would we aught behold of higher worth than that inanimate cold world allowed? To the poor loveless ever anxious crowd, from the soul itself must issue forth a light, a glory, a fair luminous cloud, enveloping the earth. And from the soul itself must there be sent a sweet and potent voice of its own birth, of all sweet sounds the life and element." That a group of men imprisoned in their caves under hard labor should have achieved this transcendence is important for the entire earth. Doubtless a deeper destiny drew them together for this purpose. It suggests the path and goal of transformation and the human task of spirits in incarnation. Walt Whitman, in his poem Whispers of Heavenly Death, writes, see if I can say it. "Darest thou now, O soul, walk out with me toward the unknown region, where neither ground is for the feet nor any path to follow, no map there nor guide, all is blank before us. Till then the ties loosen, all but the ties eternal, time and space, nor darkness, gravitation, sense, nor any bounds bounding us. Then we burst forth, we float in time and space, O soul, prepared for them, equal, equipped at last, O joy, O fruit of all, them to fulfill, O soul." Consider this extraordinary and powerful thought, that time and space are not fulfilled till human consciousness has expanded into ethereal space. No wonder that heaven worlds are watching planet Earth with such intense interest, for it is the training ground of the 10th hierarchy, the divine archetype, and mankind has now reached the tremendous threshold when he can take the refining step into cosmic consciousness, not merely for his own redemption, but for the fulfillment of the universe. This planet is a precious seed point from which a transformed universe can issue forth when the attribute of God, the human, H-U-M-A-N, being, the shining one, through his own initiative and decision, lifts his vibration to merge with the ocean of life. This is the great step in evolution when mankind, by conscious choice in inner activity, opens soul to the creative activity of the all-present Spirit. Every time a human soul group achieves this refinement of vibration so that it can pass in consciousness through rock and find the ethereal light of the cosmic Christ within every molecule center in matter, a step has been taken in planetary transformation and redemption. And by the divine provision, our human initiative is essential, since no takeover is allowed that militates against human freedom. We are apprentice gods and have a task of fulfilling the divine plan. When one group succeeds, the way is made easier for those that follow. We need now, as we approach a time of great change, to grasp the human task, not our own survival, but a glorious step into the light. We do not know whether these men are still in their caves. By now, the original group must be released by heavenly death, their task fulfilled. But we may give them our thanks, for as soul beings, they will be able to tune in to our thoughts. We owe them the publication of their scripts, for they give us a picture of what the coming of the Christ may mean. It is made very clear by many sources of recent communication that a critical stage has been reached and that mankind must, in the immediate future, take a step in consciousness and spiritual awakening. The living powers and the high command in the galaxy will no longer tolerate the deviation from divine law of which we, as errant stewards of the planet, have been guilty. The redemptive ray of the Christ love is, we know, playing into the earth on its human layer. We are approaching a time of crisis when each soul is called upon to make its choice, whether it will continue on the vibration of egoism, hate, and fear, or lift its frequency to unite with the integrating power of love. The achievement of those courageous prisoners will have done much more than save and redeem their own souls. Since the ocean of life permeates and traverses everything, their deed will have refined and illuminated the entire aura of the planet. Those who read these scripts will be fired with a greater sense of the meaning and purpose of life in this age of change. Okay, 12 minutes, so that's the end of that foreword, which was by Sir George Trevelyan. Okay, and I think I have time in this video, so I won't cut off to read editor's note. In the early 1960s, I did read this. Okay, I read the editor's note in the first video I made about the book, so I'll skip that. So this is short enough. This next part is called Letter from Peter Caddy at Findhorn Foundation, where the scripts were originally received. This is February 23rd, 1979. Dear Brenda Marshall, I would like to give you some of the background of the scripts. I first met Anne K. Edwards, whose spiritual name was Naomi, in the Philippine Islands when I was an officer in the Royal Air Force. I discovered that she was a sensitive and asked her to ask her inspirers as to why we had been brought together. We were told that we had been linked in many lifetimes down the ages and had been brought together from the opposite ends of the earth to link two aspects of the divine plan for the new age. We were each to share the spiritual work that we had done up to that date. I want to make a comment on what that said, but I won't. She told me that she was a part of a group of 7 sensitives who formed a central receiving and transmitting station in Evanstown near Chicago, at the center of the United States. They had been guided by the Master DK, the Tibetan, it says Master capital D, capital K, the Tibetan, and others to locate and link up with various groups and centers of light all over the world who formed a network of light to carry energy for the transformation of the planet. There were some 370 in all. They all had code names. One of them was the group in Siberia that was incarcerated in a salt mine. They were known as X-7. A few years later, Naomi came to Findhorn to be one of the 4 square founders of the Findhorn community. She stayed with us for about 3 years. We jointly continued on the work that she had started and linked up telepathically with these centers or stations of light all over the world. We were told at the time that this was in preparation for when we would make physical contact with the groups and centers. My wife, Eileen, Dorothy McLean, and other sensitives, Lena Lamont, also engaged in this telepathic work. We continued to have communication with X-7. I was given the responsibility of putting the material that Naomi received into form for publication. We felt that the X-7 material should be the first to be published. I first sent it to Maud Kennedy, who had visited Findhorn. She was an author and a follower of Mayor Baba. It was then sent to Sir George Trevelyan, who was so excited with the information that he shared it with the conference of the Soil Association at Addingham. This caused a real division in the association. Some were very excited, and others felt that Sir George had gone too far this time. He decided to send it round to get the opinions of various people, after which it was generally agreed that the time was not yet for these scripts to be published. For about 6 months now, there has been a feeling in the community that the time had come to publish them. Naomi passed away a few years ago, and I have tried to locate her daughter without success, but her granddaughter visited Findhorn last year. Unfortunately, I haven't her address. In any case, she gave me the responsibility of getting these scripts published. We indeed feel happy that they are now also being made available through the medium of light, the publication Light, L-I-G-H-T. By all means, quote the relevant aspects from the interview with me in One Earth. And this is a quote that I'll read. The first I heard about the network of light was in 1945 at an American air base in Japan. A rather elderly woman and I started talking about Tibet and then the age of Aquarius, the age of woman and the Tibetan. She said that she received from the Tibetan. She told me about the network of light. She was the focal point for a group of 7 people in Evanston near Chicago in the epicenter of the United States. Their work, under the guidance of Master D.K., had been to locate centers of light throughout the world and to link them up telepathically. They all had code names, and this had been the work. Some had been involved in transmitting telepathically, others were receiving. This was a difficult concept to grasp at first, and I was told to try and express it in my own words, that there was a being behind me clarifying it for me. I saw the planet with all these points of light linked up in triangles of light and energy, with light flowing between them all over the planet. Eventually, Naomi came to Findhorn to be one of the four square founders of Findhorn. She had a series of messages from a center of light down a salt mine in Siberia. It deals with the nature of matter. At Findhorn, there were 4 sensitives who would receive and transmit on different levels. Naomi would be on the soul level. Here's a question, Q, period. Do you have to translate the material somehow? Answer, no, it comes through the mind. Therefore, it's in whatever language its receiver understands. It's transferred by symbol.